It's hysterical, the manipulations in the Whovian community, especially the actions of Problem Being. Take a look at this. So, Problem Being is known throughout the Whovian community as the biggest behind the scene puppet master manipulators. And this guy that was an up and coming writer and a huge fan of Russell Davis and Doctor Who, Problem Being manipulated him to basically lash out at Russell T Davis, knowing that Russell T Davis, the way he is, would respond in kind. And they know how Russell is. Everybody knows how Russell is. So what happened was they kept pumping between Problem Being and Noel, this guy Jack Rabbit or Jack B. Nimble, whatever his name is. He has a fascination with rabbits and making Doctor Who characters rabbits and whatever. But he's also a writer. And they basically brainwashed this guy and pushed him in the direction they wanted and manipulated him to lash out at Russell T Davis. Problem Being was pumping him and pumping him and pumping him and pumping him. And then what happened was he did lash out at Russell. But for some weird reason in his head, didn't think that Russell would tell him off. And when Russell told him to fuck off, his whole world crashed. He went into shock. He had a panic attack. He had almost a nervous breakdown. And immediately, waiting in the wings, waited a couple of minutes to respond. Problem Being, on one of his many accounts, that Noel says he doesn't have many accounts on Twitter and YouTube and Instagram. One of his many accounts, he lashes out at Russell T Davis. So this was basically material for the Tardis zone to have for the next couple of weeks. I mean, they actually tricked, manipulated this guy to do what they wanted so that way they could paint Russell T Davis, the showrunner of Doctor Who, in a negative light. And they would actually have an inside scoop on their channel of the news because they created the news. So basically, what happened was the health declined of the victim, Jackrabbit or whatever his name is. And then I remember fighting with Problem Being, and I'm like, how could you do this? And Problem Being, I was going to try to get the kid on the podcast, talk to him, try to calm him down. Problem Being's like, no, no, no. And then Problem Being was fighting with Noel because they had set this whole thing up to talk about for weeks, and they wanted Jack Rabbit on the Tardis Zone, and they wanted him on the podcast, on the live streams, and the kid was having a damn breakdown. And then all of a sudden, Problem Being thought he went too far. And he didn't want to have the kid on the podcast, and that was defeating the whole plan between Noel and Problem Being of creating this content. So eventually, he was okay, I guess. But how stupid is that? You're trying to become a writer with your career, and you piss off one of the head writers of the head show in the UK and basically blackballed your entire career. Wow. So they didn't care what they did to this guy. They didn't care because it was content. It's about the Whovian manipulation that you don't see happens. See, they make so much money making hatred videos on Doctor Who it's astronomical. They make a lot of money. And they don't care who the victim is. As long as they can get content, they love it. Like when Noel had that battle with Tardis facts and there was police reports and all that, he loved that because it was bringing attention to his channel. Yeah, it was bad with the police and all these different things, but he was getting attention. When he battled Dr. Freedom, he was getting attention. He was in the realm of view for everyone to see on YouTube. It was drama. It was Whovian drama he created. And he went after many people. And he never had kept his friends. He battled Doctor Who chat. He battled um, even Rabbi at one point. And it was just constantly having to try to have control over everyone. And then he realized he couldn't control people. He even tried to stop Tardis from growing. And Tardis was a part of that group, and he admitted it. And, you know, Noel tried to manipulate him and tried to control him, and he couldn't. And then Tardis surpassed him. So, Noel Tardis Zone has been known about doing all these things on the Whovian community. It's well known. And problem being is the biggest henchman, manipulator. The amount of accounts that he has is astronomical, and basically Noel just doesn't care. Noel doesn't care that problem being has no morals. Problem being released my address to the public, and Noel doesn't care. Take a look at this. So Noel doesn't care about anybody but himself. He was parading that he beat up police and was in the newspapers and was proud of it. He didn't care that his people were putting my address out there to try to stop me from talking about Doctor Who, so that way Noel could soar in the Whovian community and just keep going after the competition. So this is what basically has to stop. Okay, you know, they could try to have their own Whovian mafia and basically scare the shit out of people. I mean, problem being has gone on from podcast to podcast to podcast to try to defame my character and stop them from having me on other podcasts. He's done stuff with my gaming when I wasn't talking about Doctor Who and I was doing gaming. He still tried to destroy me, and anybody that was going to be talking to me. He fired Bad Wolf as a moderator when he was for Tardis Zone because he was talking to me about gaming. He tried to tell people, don't go on Joe's podcast. Don't do this. And the kicker was, he ordered Marty and Memory to become a member of my show, The Real Whovians, to try to destroy it from within. And when I found out about it on my podcast, I fired them right there and then live. And it was the famous Memory meme where I was throwing, the Memory's name was thrown in the garbage pail like Spider-Man No More and stuff like that. So they had admitted that to me after, and, eventually we resolved things and Marty returned to my podcast. But problem being was the one that was so desperately trying to destroy not only my group, but even when I wasn't talking about Doctor Who, he still saw me as, I guess, a threat to Noel because I'm more popular, that he tried to destroy my gaming streams. And he flagged the stupidest videos. Like, he actually flagged the donut lesson where I was reviewing donuts. Yeah, I had a weird phase when the coronavirus and pandemic happened, and I'm reviewing donuts and sodas and shit like that. And he flagged that. And it took days for me to get it removed and approved that it was fine. So this is what goes on, the toxic Whovian community, and I just wanted you to be aware of it. It still goes on to this day. But the key is don't let bullies win, especially Whovian bullies like Noel and Problem Being. Take care. Bye for now.